Designer's Cafe.
I don't believe schools of architecture, either historically or today, have particularly prepared young architects for the realities of architectural practice. Again, referring to this notion of a safe space where one can fail, where one can push the envelope in a sense. I think the academy always needs to be that. In a certain sense, you're a bit freer of the constraints of the real world. We need to understand that those constraints also have to be brought into the academy so students can begin dealing with them and dealing with them in an inventive and creative way. I think the academy should be a kind of idealized space, but it also has to be a kind of laboratory, a testing ground for the real world. And I don't think we're so good with the latter. I mean, we are still that ivory tower.
Sometimes I think we lose a little bit of the reality of what our job is and what our profession is really about. I think people really forget the reality of what it's going to be like to be working as professionals.
Architecture school is really unique because it's probably the only time that many of architecture students get to work on their own projects, because after that architecture is basically a service industry.
I think that the profession is a lot different from the education in that you never work alone. It's hard to design an entire building by yourself. There's always other people that you have to network with or design with or consult. That collaboration is not usually present in school, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because during school you're trying to develop your own sort of way of working.
You're very fast and you're always predicting what I'm going to say.
Their education is not preparing them to become kind of architects in the full sense of the word architect, being both poets and practitioners. They are wonderful, they're talented, they're smart. The tragedy is that the students are not sufficiently prepared to be independent thinkers. If they either function at the poetic level or they function at the pragmatic level. The two shall never meet. So we have to kind of help them put those two together.
Do like a series of overlays where you'd start to see like if there's different spaces like this, how they would interact.
So the walls are they're retaining walls. They're retaining earth. They're retaining memories.
It's like an earthwork, yeah.
But like if you give me a word like that, we can respond to it, right? Let me ask you this: why are they working just to put these things? They're making things,
yeah,
right? And they're making things because they want to create something of value, right? Mm-hmm. Why do they just want to put it in storage?
Do I think I might not be an architect? Sure. The likelihood that I work in an office after I graduate is pretty high, though. I don't think that people have to be stuck there for like 3 years and then get their license and then they do their own stuff. I want to start doing my own stuff and work in an office.
I look forward to seeing what's going to happen. I'm excited to see what my signature ends up being.
I want to teach and I want to write and I want to work for a firm that will let me do all of these things.
I want to get some experience in a larger firm to see how they work and see how they operate. Do that, and then hopefully the long-term goal is to, start my own practice.
The remarkable thing to me is how optimistic students of architecture are, how they sustain that optimism. And again, it's almost a bit like an actor or actress, that they still cherish that belief that they're going to break out of the chorus line in some way, even though the reality, as it is on Broadway, is very, very different. In part, it could be how they very quickly imbibe this notion of the star architect and this belief that, against all odds, that they might be able to make it.
Well, today I think a lot of people, when they think of architecture, they think of architects. They think of the handful of brand name architects that they might have heard of, which to me is rather limiting.
People only know Frank Gehry, I mean, there's other architects out there that are doing better work, greater work, more important work than Gehry.
The problem is that the way we teach architecture right now is we sort of train everybody to do that exact same thing. The whole sort of pedagogical model right now is around creating the next generation of star architects. That's actually a flawed model.
For many years, everyone wanted to be like Frank Gehry.
They wanted to create great sculptures in the landscape. Whether those sculptures worked or not was largely irrelevant. The ability to use aerospace engineering to come up with forms that hadn't been built before was considered to be a primary task of someone coming out of school. That's over. That's over.
I would argue that this current generation of beginning students of architecture have the capacity to reshape a world like we've never seen before. And they need to have access to as much technology and as much discourse, meaningful discourse surrounding these techniques and these tools so that they're fully prepared to go out into the world in the future to do something positive and productive.
Students are coming out, they're working with individuals around the world who need shelter and who need ways of living that are affordable and supportable and sustainable. The students themselves have been pushing to force faculty to think differently about the way faculty see the environment, use the environment, and create objects that serve not just the aesthetic interests of the architect.
It's fundamentally an optimistic profession. You don't go into architecture if you're a pessimist, if you don't actually believe that the world can get better. So I think you've got a bunch of optimists that go into this design profession who actually believe that their buildings are going to make the difference in somebody's life.
I think that the built environment is something that people have such an appreciation for. If you don't care about this, then like, what do you care about?
It's about understanding human behavior, human desire, human want. Architecture is what you experience in your daily life, on the street, the space of the street, how you navigate the street, how you relate to the buildings around you.
People tend to think architecture is done for and by other people. It's, it's also done by you if you decide to maybe put a new window in your house or change the traffic flow in your house or your office.
At architecture school, you got the freedom to, you don't like something, do something about it. That's what they told you for 5 years. Do something about it. Doesn't matter what, just do something about it.
The school is kind of about a way of thinking, and what you're going to do in architecture school is not what you think it's going to be, That you're not going to go in there and be designing colonial homes and things like that.
We don't just need shelter, we need atmosphere, and we need to be inspired. I think one of the most important things you can take from this school is not to lose your ambition. It's not just, 4 walls and a roof. There's more into it. There's like a life to it that I think we get here, and we should really take with us everywhere you go.
Gonna come to architecture school. I hope you understand the creative process. I hope you understand the transformation that your mind and body and psyches is gonna go through. Because there is nothing absolute about this. What do you think about that, Mr. Doc Boy? Yeah, making a movie, huh?
Right.
Yeah, sure you are.